What's up guys, Mark here from My Primal Being. We got Josh starting off another episode of the IronEye with a couple of behind the neck push presses. If you see a sliver of pink running really quickly past the screen, that's Ashley, part of the crew with Josh behind the magic that is Abs Protein Pancakes. These guys have been pretty amazing. We met them at a workouts in the park and they are pretty amazing performers and athletes themselves. So I've been picking up a lot of stuff from the both of them. So he's switching down into a squat, working on some front raises. Kyle and I actually encourage doing these. We picked this up after watching Klokov do a few of these, and it's a pretty intense movement. It really works the shoulders, and trying to do it with some weight, man, it's pretty rough. Just kind of getting into that bottom snatch position is just kind of a nice little experience. So here's Josh showing Ashley how to do the movement, and it's a little bit tricky. We did discover on this day that you kind of have to start from the top and go down into the bottom position with the bar mid-shin. And it's a bit of a tricky movement, but she gets it, and she gets it really effortlessly, actually, using the women's bar. You'll see me here in a little bit having to switch to the women's bar because I tried on the dude's bar and it was actually way too much for me to handle. So here I am, getting in my turn. I'm gonna start with the guy's bar. And I actually have a difficult time with this. It's kind of hard to tell from this front angle, but you can definitely see that my shoulders are a little too far back and I'm leaning too far forward. It's actually way beyond the center line of my body where it should be the most stable. And it's actually kind of a tricky position. If this were loaded, this would be a very, very bad position to be in if I had that weight set up this way. And so I've got Josh cueing me and saying that I need to be a lot more upright, have my chest more upright and in the right position. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up to sit into the squat more upright. If you'll notice, I failed because that bar is actually a little too heavy for me. And I have to switch to the ladies bar. A little bit embarrassing, but as you can see, it's a much better position. Still getting a little too far forward on that. But I eventually work my way through and get the form a little bit better. If you guys happen to notice, we're actually back at Barbell Brigade again, which is just a great place to go to. And it's been a home away from home for Josh and Ashley because it's very reminiscent of an old gym that they used to go to back in Florida. So I'm glad that I could introduce them to this space. You got Kyle kind of drifting around on the side. It's going to be his turn here in a second. I'm just kind of trying to work that movement. And as you can see, there's a little bit of that thrusting sort of snatching movement in order to get to the position. It's a bit more of a full body thing for me, but realistically, what we're trying to do is to just use our arms and our shoulders to get into that position. Whether or not I'm talking out of my ass, if that's correct or not, is well, that remains, you know, to be said, because we haven't really played with Olympic lifts in a while. So Kyle's actually pretty stoked on doing this stuff because we've been doing powerlifting stuff for a while and he's kind of getting bored of it. So this just kind of gives him the opportunity to practice developing some speed and some power. So he's trying to do some snatches there really briefly and just try to get a feel for it. And Josh is cueing him because Josh is actually really, he's actually really good with these movements, and he's had a lot of training and reading and practice with these movements. So now we move on from that warm-up into the racks. You'll see Ashley here starting off with some very good-looking back squats. I like that little hair toss that she does. It's like, well, you know, this is just a casual, like whatever. Ashley is actually very, very strong. I didn't get any video of this, but she did some handstands and some, she would switch her, her positions. She'd go from one hand to the other, and that's pretty intense up against the wall. And both Josh and Ashley can actually do handstand walks, which has me feeling pretty jelly. So now we switch over and show some stuff with Kyle, warming up with 135 on some low bar back squats. There's my butt going in to do some warm-up sets as well. Trying to do math, which is always a bad idea when it comes to lifting because I suck at math, and when you're in the middle of, you know, when your brain is drained of all the glucose and the oxygen because it's all going to your muscles, the math gets even worse. So you'll notice I kind of take my time getting set up, and I try to get it so that I'm usually about arm's distance from the bar. I'll twist my elbows up and out as hard as I can so that I can lock my lats in place and get everything as tight as possible. And I just keep trying to bend the bar, rotate the bar as I step under and get set up. And I ran off there and got some chalk while Kyle feels the music. So there's my butt again, going in for the kill, getting set up. So now that I'm properly chalked up, which by the way is kind of a really weird ritual, it just makes it feel as if it's much better. And it just feels like it's part of the whole process. It feels really good. But yeah, just chalked up there and just warming up with a few reps of front squats. These safeties are actually just the right height. They're gonna come in. They're gonna come in really handy in a little while. You guys will see just how silly that all looks, because we're definitely gonna need them. Josh and Ashley are just kind of chilling in the background. Ashley's not really. She just kind of likes to do her own thing and doesn't like to get like too mucked up in all the theory and all the practical, the right movements. She's got a pretty strong athletic background herself, so pretty confident in just letting her sort of do her own thing, fly solo. So now we've got Josh coming in, doing front squats at 225. He does mention that he was pretty tired, pretty cooked on this day, so this gets a little rough later on as the weights get heavy. But really nice upright position. Josh is like 6'2", I believe, and long arms, long limbs makes it pretty hard to do these movements. And we both discovered that my arms are actually about the same length as his, which is actually worse for me because that's just that much more limb to have to deal with, which is bullshit. So we had to raise the spot for squats here just to accommodate everybody. But poor Josh has to kind of just deal with our midget selves to get that bar in an okay position. He still really has to kind of get into a squat there. So I'm gonna go in and do 225 myself. Now this seems like it's all over the place, but I like doing the high bar back squat in place of the front squat because if I happen to be really tired or I'm not too into it, like on this particular day, I was kind of smoked, so I wasn't really too excited about doing like front squats. So I just did a variation that was similar-ish. I'm not as upright, but it's a nice smooth 225. I don't know what the critics out there will say, but that felt really good to me. Here comes Kyle. I believe this is 225, 245, which is getting up there for him. His ceiling, I believe, is 275 for 3 in the front squat. So this is getting really close. There goes Ashley and Josh. Josh is helping her doing some barbell lunges with some weight. I didn't quite catch what that was. It looks like 135 looking in the mirror. It's a bit of a waste. But we got Kyle going in for 225. I may have been wrong on the weights. It's kind of hard to tell with the bumpers just what the weight is. So this is 225 right now, and it looks like it's a lot more solid, and he's kind of wobbling around. We just strip the weight as we go because Josh obviously has some bigger numbers than we do, and he needs the extra weight that's kind of sitting there at the edge of the racks. So he's going in, doing his reps. This is actually pretty cake for him. He's got a pretty solid athletic background, so he loves this stuff. Looking nice, pretty low. I think Kyle was talking about doing the low bar back squat for these. He's a big fan of that. I haven't really found too much of use for the low bar because my numbers are still going up doing the high bar, and I want to get proficient in the front squat anyways because I have a goal of hitting a 5'10" front squat, which is triple body weight for when I used to be 165, 170, and that's kind of what I'm up to right here. This is, it looks like, I believe this is actually when I fail. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe this is 345, 355. See, there's 10s on that end. So that's 315, 10, 20, 30, 40. So about 345, 355, maybe 350. And remember what I said about those safeties coming in. So that feels pretty solid. I was able to rack it and get it on my back. It felt really good. But as you will see here in a second, it's not gonna look very good. And I just, boom, lose it. Completely lose it. And those bars, those safeties, although kind of a strange feeling, do help a ton. So here's Josh going in to kill that same weight. But you'll actually see he kind of slows down, and he said later on that day that he was kind of feeling a little out of it. Getting set up, taking his time. It's a kind of a crappy, awkward position for him because it is pretty low since he has to accommodate the three of us. So there's a bit of a grind here. There's a little bit of a wobble. Yeah, there's a bit of a grind. I believe you can do a ton more. It's kind of cool to see that bar wobbling around. So Kyle's gonna come in and do, I believe, 225. I believe those are 35s, so 225, 70, 295, 295 plus 20. Yeah, sorry, I really suck at math. But he has something that he'd like to say about this particular lift.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is Kyle, and we don't know what's on this bar right now. That is either 295 or 315. I was told at the time that it was 305, but you know, since I missed it, we'll just call it 315. Anyways, this lift for me represents something specific. It represents a shift in my determination. You can see I'm really pushing. I really tried to stick with this squat. I have some imbalances I need to work on, and I need to keep tighter in the hole, but that's what she said. But the main thing that this squat represents to me is a shift from not being driven by a fear of failure, but being driven by a determination to succeed. I wasn't afraid that I would miss the lift. I wasn't afraid that I was going to drop the barbell. I was just determined to lift that weight. Even when failure seemed immediate, I still kept pushing and pushing until I absolutely could not push any longer. That is a difference for me. So often I think we're driven by fear of failure, driven forward, which can be a good thing, but that determination to succeed is something that I've been trying to cultivate lately in both my weightlifting and my personal life. So that's about it. Sorry to get all mushy on you guys, but sometimes you have to remember that weightlifting is not just about making your body stronger, but it's also about developing mental strength. All right, guys, have a good one.
So still a very cool attempt and a very amazing lesson to be learned from that. At this point, Kyle had to take off because it was kind of getting late, and he had to go do some work. So Josh, Ashley, and I stuck around. We were gonna do benches, but we ended up working on overhead presses very properly, I might add. And this was actually a challenge for me. If you'll notice, Josh had to strip the bar because my positioning was really kind of gnarly. I don't have a lot of thoracic mobility, and I need to work on that. He really hammers on that point when I'm working on these overhead presses. But it was great practice for me to develop this, or at least develop the sense to doing this, because it helped with my kettlebell training on Tuesdays that I do with Yogi Steve. I'm really struggling, trying to be perfect with every single one of these reps, and I'm sweating because it's late and it's hot, and it's been a long day. But I'm trying to soldier on through this, and it's a little too intense, to say the least. But he's gonna keep hammering on the points that he taught me, which is great. This helps a ton when it comes to my overhead pressing, and that's something I definitely like to develop. I'm trying to get more and more into some dumbbell work, some barbell work, some benches, overhead presses, just because my upper body is not the strongest. I've kind of been literally leaning on my legs this whole time, so I need to build them up. Well, at least not build my legs up, sorry, but to build up my arms, my chest, my back, so that I can support more weight. Here's Ashley, just smashing through these very beautifully, I might add. I think it's the pink. If I wear like a pink shirt, I think that adds like 15% to my lifts. And if I just do that, I should be able to crush her handstands and all of her other work. But there she goes. Obviously, she's learned from the best. That's Josh, who is constantly harping on her about the form and the technique and all that stuff. But it's shining through, and it looks pretty solid. Keeps her safe, keeps her pretty strong, and allows her to keep doing the thing that she has to do, which is to lift, get stronger, and be awesome, basically. And that's it.